Hello, everybody. MakersX here, back at it again to give you another very exciting episode on Zara's Thoughts. Now, we heard a lot of different conversations from a lot of different people in terms of the hands-on experience, the games itself, all the console features and specs and everything like that, including the pricing and stuff. And I know everybody's up in arms about pricing, no, but I feel like one of the things that not a lot of people, at least, is taking a whole bunch of time to actually look at or talk about is all of the different accessories that you have for the Nintendo Switch 2. So I figured, hey, I might as well go ahead and give my thoughts at least on all of these things, and then just go ahead and throw out some of the things that I'm actually personally looking forward to getting, at least hopefully on day one, considering it's not a lot of these prices are gonna, change drastically. At least here's hoping though. So I mean, we get to see like a good chunk of all the different stuff over here, and this is all off of Nintendo's website and stuff. So we'll just scroll down the list and go one by one. So you are going to be able to get a Nintendo Switch 2 Pro controller. They've been showing that one off a little bit more so at the Nintendo Treehouse events and stuff, like when they just got those different Nintendo reps going through and playing through some of those games. Because look here, I'm one of those people, at least with my first Nintendo Switch, where I was like, hey, the Joy-Cons and stuff is cool, but I still prefer a traditional classic controller. And literally, I play all my games with the Pro controller, with a few exceptions, given if the games require Joy-Cons, or I think it's just better to play with Joy-Cons. Like for example, a game like Arms, I just always play that with Joy-Cons though. But it seems like at least with this Nintendo Switch 2 Pro controller though, it is going to MSRP at $80, at least from the time I'm recording this, and this is like a couple of days after the fact that they said, hey, we have to reevaluate all the prices due to potential tariffs here, at least in the United States. From the time of this recording, this is the cost of all of these different accessories and stuff. But anyway, originally it was going to be priced at $80 MSRP, which is technically $10 more than the traditional Pro controller as it stands already, though. Which I was like, okay, I expect there to be a little bit of a tick. Thankfully, it's not a drastic tick, but at least when you're comparing the rest of the competition, I think like what the PlayStation DualSense controller normally sells for 70, but they actually raised the price on it, so now the standard is 75 bucks unless you catch the controller on sale, though. So it's not too far off of that though, and obviously you'll still have the USB charging port up in here though, and it seems like there's going to be HD Rumble 2, so it seems like they're actually going to evolve the HD Rumble that we normally have you know within the Switch Pro or the Switch Pro controller or just the Switch Joy-Cons in general though. So it does look like it's going to take an upgrade in terms of that though, and we can kind of get to see a different shots of it and stuff like that. Key in on that headphone jack right here, because my goodness, look, I've been telling Nintendo for the longest time, hey, look, we need to have a dedicated headphone jack on the Pro controller. At least that way you can actually use some headsets and stuff like that with the microphones and stuff. Yes, I know the microphone, the built-in one on the Switch 2, it says it's going to be good enough to capture everything in your living room space, minus the TV, minus other sound effects and stuff like that. They're doing noise cancellation and stuff of that nature though. But I do like the fact that, hey, you can have this, because they did say the Switch 2 is going to support 3D audio, which is something that's really nice within the PlayStation ecosystem that you're able to do within the PS5 though. So yeah, so that's some really cool stuff right there. Get to see the back. I do like the fact that how you're gonna have like two different mappable controller buttons on the back of it, so you can program those to any other button you want, which is something I really like from the Xbox series controllers, where it's like, hey, they had those two, or actually there's technically four little pegs on the bottom with the Xbox ones though that I use with my Asus ROG Ally all the time though. So just having more options, I think, is always better though. And then obviously you'll get to have the C button that's also going to be included on this Pro controller as well. So, I mean, that's something that you wouldn't necessarily have with the Switch 1 Pro controller. And yes, all of the, the Pro controller and the Joy-Con ones that you have on the original Switch is going to be playable on the Switch 2. It's just if you were to, use that C button, then at that point you have to pop one of those Joy-Cons off the side of your system and just have it sitting right next to you at any given point though. So at least for me personally, I think I'm going to pick up, or this is going to be a must. I need to get at least one. Anybody else comes over to the house or the crew, I was like, hey, look here. I was like, you're just going to have to play with the original Switch 1 Pro controller and just call it a day, though. But that Switch 2 Pro controller, that's always mine. No one else is going to be able to use this thing unless I'm not playing the system at the time. So, yeah, so that's going to be really cool. And the fact that you're going to be able to, do all of that stuff with that, though. So that's some really clean and some really nice stuff right there. And obviously, it should support, the Amiibo skin and stuff and all of that. Then, obviously, next you have Nintendo Switch 2, Joy-Con 2 controllers. Man, that's always gonna be a mouthful. That's gonna MSRP at $90. Now, normally a set of Joy-Cons normally MSRPs at $80. So it seems like it's gonna be at least a $10 increase for that. I don't see myself buying another set of Joy-Cons considering how I can still use my old Joy-Cons for stuff like that. However, the mouse feature thing is going to be a really nice addition to where, depending on the games that you might play with multiplayer, if you got some other people at the house where you're at, it might warrant some people to actually get an extra set of the Joy-Con 2 controllers, though. So, I mean, that kind of makes sense for some people, though, but at least for me personally, I don't really see the need of it until a certain game might potentially come out, though. But hey, if you're looking at a replacement, something happens to yours, or you need to, get more for, the additional people that you want to play with, that's what you got to look at right there. Then you have the Joy-Con 2 charging grip. Now, this charging grip, it's cool because you're able to stick the Joy-Con 2s up in them and actually be able to charge them. I mean, there's like the equivalent with the Switch 1 Joy-Cons as well. There's a charging grip for that. So I expected them to kind of do this. I don't see myself picking this one up because I was thinking I was really going to use it a bunch with my Switch 1 Joy-Con with that version of the grip. But I really didn't catch myself using it entirely too much, really. Because, I mean, most of the time they're just staying up in the console itself, though. But I don't know. I mean, for the time being, I'm saying probably a no, and I'm probably going to lean up on that thing, though. But it is going to be roughly about $35, give or take. Next, you have some Joy-Con 2 straps. Obviously, these straps are going to be included with the Joy-Cons you're going to get in the console on day one. However, if you need some replacements, the dog happened to chew up something like that, though, then here you go. $13 a pop ain't going to break the bank, or at least not with some straps, at least. Then you have the Joy-Con 2 wheels. Now, those are MSRPing for like $20. I think that's roughly about the same cost, at least for the Joy-Con wheels that we had within the original Switch one. So I was like, hey, if you're one of those people, and I feel like people that normally pick this up, is that more so kids that like to have the actual like driving experience like you have in the arcades or something like that? I feel like for most other people, if you're like a teenager or higher or something like that, you're just like, give me the two Joy-Cons in both of the hands or in the grip or the Pro controller. And you're just playing traditional, though. So I don't know. But I don't know. There's probably some people out there that kind of like playing the games like that, though. So if you want the Joy-Con grips, $20, that one at least shouldn't at least break the bank, though. Then you get over here to the Nintendo Switch 2 camera, though. And with this one right here, I'm curious. I might potentially see myself picking this one up just because of the different features and stuff it's going to be included for certain games, like for example Super Mario Party Jamboree with the Plus TV mode or whatever it's called. There's some dedicated games and mini games that are solely developed around this camera, and for the sake of me just collecting stuff and just being able to have all my options open, I'm potentially looking at getting that Switch 2 edition of that game, though. I'm just gonna buy the little upgrade because I already own the game, so I'll just do the upgrade for like the $20 or so, though. And I can see myself getting the camera, so at least I can experiment around on this, though, because I do have family members that like to play with me on my Switch, though, so I can get a lot of usage out of this, probably more so than just your average old person that honestly could be the same age as me, but if they don't interact with a lot of different people or is this mostly online, then hey, whatever, though. But I also want to experiment around with that with the game chat feature and stuff like that, do coverage on it, though. So I potentially see myself actually getting this Switch 2 camera. It's going to be about $50. Not bad for just a basic old camera, because I think even the PlayStation camera that you can get with the PS5, I think it's roughly around that same price, maybe 60-ish or something like that, but it's roughly in a respectable ballpark, at least for the time being, though. However, it doesn't seem like you only have to purchase this one that Nintendo's selling. In the wordage that I've been seeing and looking around in the website, it seems like you're actually able to plug in any USB-C camera on top of the Nintendo Switch 2 when you have it docked. So it seems like you're going to have a lot of different options, though. So as long as you have a camera, ideally it should support it, though. And funnily enough, when I was doing my research and stuff for this one video, though, look at this. Apparently, Hori already has a dedicated camera that is literally in the shape of a piranha plant that they're going to be selling very close to around launch, though. So it's like, hey, if you want a little bit of style instead of just a generic black old looking camera for your Switch 2, and yeah, you have different options out there, though. So that goes to warrant to say, hey, getting this camera sold solely by Nintendo first party it's not the only way you have to go about this, though. You're going to have different options. So who's to say how many different other third-party companies out there are going to be able to go through and develop different cameras and stuff like that, though. So yeah, that's some really cool stuff right there. Then you have the Nintendo Switch 2 dock system now. Now this is going to be MSRP for around $110. I don't think that that's something stupidly crazy, because I think the Nintendo Switch 1 dock was roughly around 100-ish, give or take. You might have been able to catch that dock on sale every now and then, though, but 110 to get yourself an extra dock, so that way you can just pop the Switch 2 out, and then move to a different location and just pop it right back in. At least for the time being, I don't see myself getting an extra dock. Granted, at least with my Switch now, technically got 3 of them. One of them's technically the overheating switch that doesn't work no more. One's the Monster Hunter Rise Edition one that still works. That's just, that version of it. And then I have like the Switch OLED Splatoon 3 one. So between all 3 of them, I technically got 3 different docks. So it is kind of nice to be able to move from one side of the house to the other and not have to worry about it so much, though. But at least for the Switch 2, I think I'm going to be fine and content with the dock I have right now. Maybe that's something I'll pick up a little later on down the road if I happen to change some things with my layouts here and there, though. Then you have the Switch 2 carrying case and screen protector. That's roughly going to be about $35. That at least shouldn't at least break the bank for nobody right there. Look, I don't care who you are. If you're getting the Nintendo Switch 2 and if you ever foresee yourself pulling that thing out, taking it in handheld mode or potentially tabletop, anywhere else outside of the comfort of your own home, I feel like having a carrying case is going to be nearly essential, because you don't just want to drop, this shoot, that thing is way bigger than the standard Switch. There's no way you're gonna be able to fit that thing up in your pants. Maybe you got them super baggy cargo pants or something like that. Maybe it might be possible, though, but I don't know. But for most people, you're probably gonna stick it in that case and then maybe in a backpack and then go. Like if you're one of those people that happen to play it like in transit, in a car ride, when you're on your way to vacation somewhere, though, or if you happen to be playing in the plane, though, I feel like that's the number one accessory that most people were probably going to buy at least on day one. I feel like I wish you can kind of get it included, though, but it's just one thing you're just going to have to get. So I see myself potentially picking that one up. I probably will get that. Then you have the all-in-one carrying case right here, where you're actually able to go through and put a lot of different stuff up in this Switch 2. So like if you want that whole dock experience, you can take that mess on the go with this all-in-one carrying case, though. And I think they give us like one slightly better image of it, where it's like, hey, look, you can stick everything up in this mug right here. Like literally, you got the dock that can fit up in there, the system itself, shoot, even the 2 different Joy-Cons. Looks like, I guess you can fit a Joy-Con grip up in there. So technically you got 2 controllers on the go, and you can fit your Pro Controller stuff, including some straps, the cords themselves, though, and then you probably can stick a few cartridges up in there, though. Because of where I normally like to take my system, though, and especially with me probably the only one in my family, or at least my extended family with some of my cousins and stuff that probably will have this system, I know that they will probably would love to play themselves some, Mario Kart World and stuff like that. Or I could potentially see myself picking this one up as well, just so I can have that comfort and ease to know everything is snug tight. Nothing's going to be able to bang around or move around, anything like that, though. So I could easily see myself picking this one up as well, along with the standard case that's going to be selling for roughly about $35. And then last but not least, you have an extra AC adapter port. Worst case scenario, the dog or the cat happens to chew it up or spit it out or tear it out or rip it out of the wall socket, or you have some other like younger cousin or sibling or something like that that rips it out of the wall socket and just messes it up. It's good to have options where you're actually able to go through and be able to, replace certain things. And which, with it selling at $30, I think that is the same standard cost of the Switch 1 AC adapter that they sell for that system, though. So it doesn't seem like there's any kind of increase from a Switch 2 version to a Switch 1 version, given the fact that there's going to be a lot more wattage and stuff that the Switch 2 is probably going to have to pull to support all that extra power with, when you're doing all this stuff with the 120 FPS and the 4K resolution. I mean, it's just good to see all of that stuff up in there, though. And pretty much that is all of the different accessories, at least at the time of this recording, that I've been able to kind of go through and look at, though. So at least for me personally, I see myself getting a Pro Controller. That is the absolute number one must. If I don't get anything else up on this list, I have to get that. I'm definitely getting a camera of some kind if I don't already have one around the house that's already going to be able to support it or whatever, though. And I'm getting both of those two different cases. Like, that's what I kind of want to pick up all on day one, assuming if I ain't going to get charged an arm and a leg for any potential price increases, though. But I digress, though. But yeah, that was just my quick little spill, just going over all of the different Nintendo Switch 2 accessories that should be available for you, your family, or anybody else that's kind of interested in this system at day one. But y'all gotta let me know down in the comment section down below, what all do you think about the accessories that was, showed off on Nintendo's homepage right here? Are there some that you're definitely gonna pick up, or there's some that you're kind of leaning on the fence for, or something like that? Or are there some that are gonna be a wait and see situation? I think a lot of wait and see situations for most people will probably very likely be that camera of some kind, though. Depends on whether or not if you're going to be crazy with the Mario Party mode that's up in there, or any other kind of Nintendo Switch 2 games that could utilize the camera, or if you're not going to go super crazy in terms of the game chat and showing your face up in front of a lot of your family members or some of your friends, though. But yeah, let me know what all you think about it down in the comment section down below. But that's going to do it in terms of today's video, though. So if you really like this, make sure you go and hit that like button, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and that bell to stay up to date. All things video game related I feel like talking about and discussing, though. So remember, y'all, until whatever video I make next, see y'all.